We begin with news on the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his troubles because he's under investigation by the Parliamentary Watchdog over alleged failure to declare shares in his wife's holds in an agency benefiting from a recent budget. Well, now it's been emerged that the UK's Prime Minister, his wife, is a shareholder in a company that received public money, and the Labour Party is seeking answers. Well, let's go through the details now. So the Sunday Times reported that an education startup that an investment company controlled by Akshata Murthy has a financial interest in was given UK grant money. Now, in 2022, the education startup Study Hall received a government grant through a body called Innovate UK, which helps companies develop new products or services. Well, decisions on what Innovative UK will invest in are made up by a panel of funders. Well, hitting out, Labour leader Keir Starmer said there seems to be an emerging pattern of behaviour when it comes to financial interests of the Sunak family. The Labour leader said that the UK Prime Minister has questions to answer. Well, Sunak reflects allegations of wrongdoing. However, this will likely increase calls for more transparency about the Sunak family's money and, of course, business interests as well. Well, the fund provided by the UK government comes under the EdTech Innovation Fund started by National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts. The main aim of the organisation is to support innovation. There are many other EdTech firms who are listed as grantees under this scheme. Well, to understand more about this story, we have a guest joining us now, Renaud Faucard, joining us, a political analyst and senior lecturer at Lancaster University. Good to see you, Renaud. Hi, Renaud, can you hear me there? So we are talking about this latest storm with Rishi Sunak and in particular his wife's interests. What's your initial thoughts? Do you think Keir Starmer's right to want more answers?
It's the right moment to think about the transparency in the system, in particular because Rishi Sunak and his wife are extremely wealthy. So it's very unlikely that they desperately need money or did something illegal to try to avoid scrutiny. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, indeed, Rishi Sunak did not declare all the interests of his wife, simply because I don't think he thought it was relevant. But there is a big problem in the last 20 years of British politics. Whenever we talk about the possibility of conflict of interest, there is a big struggle between the privacy of politicians. I think Rishi Sunak and his wife want to keep some privacy about their interest, and a big public demand for some kind of transparency in the debate. So there is an ethics advisor for the Prime Minister. I don't think the system has been thought for a situation in which a Prime Minister's partner or wife is someone who is extremely wealthy, has a lot of investment interest. I think she must have invested in many different sectors of the British economy, and she doesn't have to declare everything all the time. But at some point, I think it does make sense to think whenever there is a decision on public investment, whenever there is a new policy, to think about how could it benefit the Prime Minister, and maybe to be a little bit more transparent about that. I don't think there is any call to discuss about corruption or active personal enrichment, but there is definitely the appearance of conflict of interest. And in a country that is really trying so hard to rebuild trust in politics, I think it is extremely important to think very carefully about that.
Yeah, I think what you just said there is key, the transparency factor in all of this. Just kind of the system aside, just the fact that they are multi-billionaires. Do you think that there is a problem with someone being the head of a country who is that rich because maybe they can't relate to the average person? Is that an issue, do you think?
I think it is clearly priced in the politics of Rishi Sunak that he is perceived as someone a bit out of touch. But people trust him as this character of a serious businessman. So he will not relate to ordinary people like perhaps Boris Johnson did, but he is seen as this more competent, successful businessman, even though in practice it's largely his wife who is who inherited a lot of money, he looks like this business-like person also because of his education. Also, it's a peculiar moment in British politics history that just before Rishi Sunak, I mean, there was a parenthesis with Liz Truss, but just before it was the years of Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson had the exact opposite problem. He needed a lot of cash all the time to sustain his lifestyle, and this cash, he received it through suspect or non-transparent loans from people. The chairman of the BBC just resigned because he helped facilitating a loan just to sustain the lifestyle of Boris Johnson. It also emerged that he lives at the moment rent-free. Somebody is giving him a house somewhere. He received hundreds of thousands of pounds. So after the time of Johnson, where there was a desperate need of the Prime Minister to get cash, it might be seen as a relief to have someone who does not need that cash. However, in practice, it's true that in terms of the very electoral concern of the Conservative Party, they will try to convince the people in the north of England who voted overwhelmingly for Boris Johnson in 2019 that Rishi Sunak is someone to represent them. He will struggle to look like this working class person that he is definitely not.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting what you say about it being kind of a relief in a way. And I suppose there's an argument to say that he doesn't need the job as the Prime Minister. He wants it, which is always encouraging. Renaud, thank you so much indeed for your time today, a political analyst and senior lecturer there from Lancaster University, live from Lancaster here on WION Today.